Good morning. Good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. A little bit concerned that the screen just froze there. Hope that's not a sign of things to come. You have to forgive me. I'm kind of seething this morning. I won't bore you with it, but yeah, I'm just mightily pissed off. And out of respect, I will say absolutely nothing. I'll tell you about it offline, maybe. But yeah, there really are some shitty people in the world, aren't there? Anyway, Jim Turner's here. Good morning, Jim. Morning, Pip. Short show for me today. Got a talk at 10:30. Inconsiderate fuckers. Yes, inconsiderate fuckers indeed. Gary, admittedly, he was a mate. I mentioned the fact that a former NFDC president had passed away about a week ago. Yeah, a bit more than a week ago, actually. I wrote about it. Even the Worthing Advertiser, which knows absolutely shit all about shit all, they wrote about it. The NFDC haven't even mentioned him. How disrespectful is that? How callous, how petty. His funeral in a couple of weeks' time. I wonder if they'll send a delegation. They should, but I really hope they don't. Just, his presidency came to an unpleasant ending. He was ousted, basically. And listen, he if rubbing people up the wrong way was an Olympic sport, he would have been the greatest Olympian of all time. But in order to become president of the NFDC, you have to work your way up through the region. He would have been London and Southern Counties region, so he would have had to have worked up his way through second vice chairman, chairman, up to national council, through the second vice president, president. And he didn't change. It wasn't like he became president and became power crazed. He was the same person, exactly the same. Yes, he did call a spade a spade. Yes, he was straight talking. Yes, he did rub people up the wrong way, but everyone knew what they were going to get, and they cut his presidency short. Now, bearing in mind, they still welcome into their fold those that have been found guilty of collusion and bid rigging. They still welcome into their fold people who have been fined for having had a death on their site and injuries on their sites. And they can't even be bothered to honour somebody. And it's not just the presidency. Because Paul's father, Claude, was such a stalwart of the industry and for the NFDC, Paul was basically involved in NFDC related things since he was a boy. I mean, literally since he was a boy. Probably, I would guess he was probably taking or attending NFDC events and conventions and that sort of thing, probably as early as the early 70s. I'm guessing, but roughly the early 70s. And he would have been in attendance at all of those. He was a regular at all their meetings, an outspoken member at some of their meetings sometimes. Did all of that. He served on various committees. He was my no, he wasn't I was his co-author on the original top-down guidance, not top-down, the high reach guidance notes that the NFTC produced. All of that, and they can't even be bothered to mention him on their website. What a I actually, for once, I don't have the words. I know what I'd like to say, and to be perfectly honest with you, I was going to sit on this. I was going to sit on it because I don't I don't think the death of somebody that I really liked should be the cause for an angry outburst. But can you honestly imagine being that petty minded? And the chances are, knowing how these sort of organisations work, there probably has been a discussion. I'm not suggesting for one moment this has been one person's decision. Yeah, no, no, let's not mention him. I bet there was a I don't know, a WhatsApp group or a Zoom call or something. Yeah, I just heard Paul Brown's passed away. Should we mention him? What do you reckon? Nah. Yeah, so yeah. Let's have a look. Dan Collins, good morning. That's unbelievable. That shows you what they're like. The wankers, he says. Speaks volumes about the share of shit that are the NFTC. Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, over the past however many years, I've lost virtually all respect for the NFTC. The little bit that I had remaining has just gone out the window. It really has. No respect for their former employee. No, absolutely. They don't even care about the people who's killed on their site. What's the chance he's got? They should hold their heads in shame. Do you know the funny thing is they won't even bat an eyelid. They won't even bat an eyelid. And here's the thing. So I mentioned the Worthing Advertiser. They wrote about a sentence because they don't know him. They are leeches, parasites upon the industry. They don't know him, and I wouldn't expect them to. But at least, I mean, credit where credit's due. At least they mentioned him. But the organisation that Paul would have given, shit, maybe 50 years, maybe 50 years of his life. Sometimes, just as a kid attending with his dad, but more latterly, as an integral part of the organisation, and just overlooked. Yes, yes, they should hang their heads in shame. Was it like that when you were there? I don't remember it being quite like that. I mean, the one thing that always sat very uncomfortably with me when I was there was there was their news on their website used to be public, and I used to run it basically. I used to broadcast the news, and they had a really bizarre like two-way sword that didn't necessarily cut in the same direction. So I wrote their magazine, Demolition Dismantling, for however many years. And if a non-member company had done something, we weren't allowed to mention it. Even on one occasion, Kokura sold what at the time was, I think, like a record-breaking high-reach excavator, but they'd sold it to a non-member. Now, the Kokuric were a member. They were an associate member, now called an ISP. They were an associate member, but they'd sold the machine to a non-member, and I was forbidden from writing about it. Okay, them's the rules. We can abide by those. I don't necessarily agree with it, but we can abide by those. But when there was an accident or an incident or a fatality involving a non-member, yeah, put that on the website. Put that on the website and state clearly that it's a non-member that did it. Gotta be honest. Gotta be honest. That's precisely why I've gone completely the other way. If you have a look at demolitionnews.com this week, and we've had one company, an NFTC member company, falling foul. They've had a prohibition notice about their asbestos activities. I've talked about that, and I've mentioned the fact that they're an NFTC member. And there's another one that they've taken down the Greyhound Stadium at Perry Bar up in Birmingham. And supposedly the paperwork wasn't in place. So I wouldn't go so far as to say it was an illegal demolition, but they certainly hadn't been given the full green light. Another NFTC member, and I've pointed out there's an NFTC member. It's kind of trying to set the record straight. It really is. Let's have a look. Ken Hatcher's just arrived. Good morning, Ken. Oh, you got some sunshine. Fantastic. Nothing like a bit of winter sunshine. It's the best kind, isn't it? Don't have to worry about getting sunburn, but it's nice and warm, and you do that squinty thing. I quite like that. Anyway, people, should we crack on? As I say, I've got that off my chest now. Let's crack on with something far more positive, shall we? It is that time, so I'm going to, without further ado, I'm going to hit the button. I'm saying that. I'm saying I'm going to hit a button. You don't even know what buttons I'm hitting, but Gary Muirhead, who can hold the NFTC to account? That's it. It's me. It's me. And you know, in terms of anger and frustration and disappointment. Most 99.99% of it is aimed at the upper echelons. Those that have probably sat around on a Zoom call and said, "Paul Brown, nah, he's yesterday's news. Don't bother mentioning him." That's where most of my anger and frustration is aimed. But what about all the others? Over the years, Paul Brown will have worked with, helped, assisted, advised countless demolition companies, all of which would have been NFDC members. Off the top of my head, I mean, he spent a time with Tilly and Barrett. He spent a time with Jay Mould. I'm trying to remember. It doesn't matter. But he over the years, he would have worked with, off the top of my head, probably a dozen different demolition companies. I would imagine most of them would have been NFDC members. Where's their outrage? Why aren't they getting in touch with Hemel Hempstead saying, "We owe him that"? That's the least we could do for somebody that gave 50 years or possibly even more, 50 years of their life and their career. Yeah. I think we should hold our own tribute to this amazing human being. Listen, let's not get carried away. Paul was many things. I liked him enormously. An amazing human being. I think he was human Marmite. He really was. There were some people who, literally thoroughly enjoyed his company. Yes, he was boisterous and he was loud and a bit shouty and often a bit sweary and very, very passionate about things. And there were other people that just could not abide him. So a bit much to say an amazing human being, but yeah, but aren't we all, I suppose, in some way? And just to have all of that contribution just swept under the carpet like it didn't matter. And listen, I'm 60 years old. I mean, I'm certainly not expecting on the day that I turn my toes up, I'm not expecting the NFDC to hold a minute's silence in my honor. I don't suppose they'll even notice. But when you put that much into something, you're genuinely passionate about it. You've risen through the ranks to follow in your father's footsteps. Bad enough to be ousted, but then to be ostracized as well. Absolute fucking disgrace. He sounds Scottish. He would have made a good Scot. Liked to drink, got a bit shouty at times, often when the drink was in place. But yeah, no, he was a star. And I know it's one of those things. I know it's one of those things that you always say, but I really am going to miss him. He used to do this thing. I'll get on with the show in a moment. But he used to do this thing. He used to phone me up, often to moan or shout or swear or whatever it might be. But whenever he said goodbye, there's a couple of people I know that do this. Mick Corridon, I can't remember the name of his company, but he's another one. Michael. But when when I say goodbye, yeah, all right, see you later, bye. Put the phone down. Paul would go, bye, 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 bye. I'd be, I'm doing a landline here, but I'd be sort of, has he finished? Has he finished? Because he's still saying goodbye. Yeah. Mick Norton is in the house, and they sound like a proper bunch of schneids, don't they? Let's crack on. You see, I like to tell myself that I set this show for audience expectations. Poor old Jim's got to be out of here before 10:30, and here we are, 15 minutes in, and I've done absolutely nothing at all. I apologise, Jim. I will try to speed through the rest of this. It is Thursday, the 13th of November. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of LiveStream. In today's show, the Develon backhoe loader. Yes, all is revealed. I can show you more than the glimpse that we gave you before. The mighty bite of OSA attachments. We're on the road with Dynapac, and we're going to take a walk around the new LiuGong 848 wheel loader. That's the T series. Plus, in today's edition of Mark's Morning Monologue, it's a cruel Christmas. Now, the Morning Monologue today is talking about the. I was on LinkedIn last night, and I was astounded by the number of posts on there that started with the words "open to work." I don't know why I'm surprised, because it is an annual thing. Lots of people get laid off around about this time of year. So that caused me to basically sit down and talk about how cruel it is that so many people seem to lose their jobs in the run up to the festivities. So that's the story behind it's called It's a Cruel Christmas. That's my morning monologue today. But have a look at this when we come back after the news. Now, we are talking about we're talking about redundancies, or I will be talking about redundancies later in the year. Or later in the show, rather. This is from Construction Inquirer, just this morning. Apparently, Kia Group have got a new chief executive, guy called Stuart Togwell. He's landed. He's already got 94% of the year's revenue locked in, which is pretty damn good. The company's order book has swollen from 600 million, that's million with an M, to 11.6 billion. That's with a B. That's another 3 zeros on the end. 11.6 billion in the order book. Congratulations. Yeah, massive congratulations to Stuart Togwell. Did I get his name right? Was he Stuart? Yeah, Stuart Togwell. Massive congratulations to Stuart Togwell. That's how you make your mark when you arrive. I wonder if that 11.6 billion in advanced orders will be reflected in their retention of staff over the Christmas period. I don't know. It may well do. Maybe, for all I know. Kia Group have sent out a remit to all of their employees and said, we've got 11.6 billion quid coming down the pipes. All have a good Christmas. Here's a bonus. Your job is safe with us. Do you think they've done that? Do you think they've done that? Dan says, you want to see my job too. Unbelievable how many are out of work. So I will come back to he's come with a full order book of his own. Yeah, I think he has. So go back to this with Dan. Literally last night or yesterday afternoon, late yesterday afternoon. If you've been a follower of Demolition News for any length of time, you might recall back in 2008, we responded to the recession that hit the industry hard. Lots of people were out of work. So we formed basically a job board, but a job board in reverse. So rather than companies advertising their vacant roles, that's vacant roles, not bacon rolls, but positions to be filled. Let's put it like that. We turned it on its head, and we basically allowed workers to advertise their availability to work free of charge. So we'd take their details and we would post them on demolitionnews.com. We'd send them out in emails and stuff like that. These people are looking for work. Here's their contact details. Here's their qualifications and so on. So we did that in 2008, 2009. We did it again around about COVID time because, much the same thing has happened again. I relaunched it again yesterday. It's not a service that I don't feel like I can add a huge amount of value to it. We have put people back into work, which I guess it makes it worth doing. But I just feel like somebody needs to do something, and again, I relaunched Demolition Jobs yesterday afternoon. You can find out more about it over on demolitionnews.com and other places as well. We've relaunched it, but having done that, I then sat there and thought, I'm going to write about it, which kind of is today's morning monologue. Anyway, Jim Turner says, I always have open to work on my LinkedIn profile because I'm always open to job offers. Doesn't mean I'm out of work. No, that's true. That is true. But I tell you what, as I say, yesterday, I don't know what it was. Maybe it's what was yesterday? It was a Wednesday. It wasn't like it was a particular day or anything like that. But I literally sort of switched over to LinkedIn. It was like looking for work, looking for work, looking. It was that many that I actually looked to see where the individuals had worked before, because I had a funny feeling that maybe somebody had just said, "That's it, we're laying off all our staff." I really genuinely thought there were that many. It was like a company had closed the doors and everybody had been sent on their own way. But yeah. So anyway, enough. Let's crack on, shall we? Let's do a bit of this, because I want to show you this new Develon backhoe loader in all its glory. So earlier this week, you will recall, we brought you about 30 seconds of a bit of a surprise. Develon throwing its hat into the backhoe loader space. Well, they've now released a longer video. As I say, we did one. It was about 30 seconds long, but I think maybe 15 seconds of it was just branding. We've now got 2 minutes. We get a closer look at what the backhoe loader looks like, and I have to say, at first glance, it looks pretty damn good.
Built for the bold. Trusted by professionals. Meet the Develon backhoe loader. One machine with endless possibilities and instant adaptability for every job. Less downtime, more uptime. Ready for every condition, from hot fields to frozen work sites. Every control is intuitive. Every movement is yours to command. Your comfort is non-negotiable. Precision you can trust. Wherever the job takes you. Tough conditions, tougher machine. Develon delivers strength you can feel. Maintenance is made simple. Ready for every region, every challenge, every job. This is more than a machine. It's Develon. Built for success, built for what's ahead.
I'm strangely torn. I'm going with this. So Dan says, looks a nice machine, like the colour too. Cool. I agree. I 100% agree. But I also agree with Ken Hatcher, who says, looks like something from 30 years ago. The first thing, I don't think I got it when we saw the preview video earlier in the week. But the bonnet, very angular. You know, I thought we were now living in an age where everything had to be curved and aesthetically smooth, and it's a box. It's yeah, I'm not sure. Are JCB quaking in their boots right now? I wonder. It's what? I don't know what you're saying there, but yeah, it's well, let me know. Let me know what you think. I mean, listen, always excited to see new machines. Always excited to see companies throwing their hat into established markets. But I'm kind of with Mick. I don't see anything revolutionary in the new Develon backhoe loader. Nor do I. Now, if you are one of those people that are a devoted Develon fan, if you're already running their excavators, their wheel loaders, and you're in the market for a backhoe loader, maybe it makes perfect sense. Maybe you've got a really astounding relationship with your local dealer, and you need a backhoe loader. It's the place to go. But if I'm running a JCB or a CAT or a Case, I'm not looking at that thinking, oh yes, must jump ship. Maybe I'm being too hasty. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's more under. Yeah. We me and Fred were at Con Expo, not the last Con Expo, the one before, when Doosan officially became Develon. And we were taught to say Develon by Americans. Develon. I then subsequently spoke to a couple of people who worked for the Korean end of things, and Develon. See, I was told it was supposed to be like a compounding of develop and onward. Develop, onward, develop. So Develon, develop, makes perfect sense. Develon makes no fucking sense at all. JCB will be okay. I think JCB will probably be okay. More of the same backhoe loader style of the last 45 years. I wish someone would take the next step and make the backhoe loader the machine it needs to evolve into. Yeah. Listen, I do remember. It was part daydream, I think. Part daydream. I remember seeing the JCB Hydro Dig and thinking, ooh, now that would look pretty tasty with a loader on the other end. I realised you'd have to fanny around a bit with it, but Jim says the answer is totally obvious to me. Just need a firm brave enough to try it. Backhoe loader companies. Jim Turner, backhoe loader companies. Andy Dovell says, morning, late again. Not a problem at all, but just write out 100 times. I must be more punctual. You don't have to. Listen, Jim's on his way out the door in a minute anyway, so it's we're pretty flexible around these parts. We're talking attachments in a minute after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, let's go and take a look at some attachments in action, like this. Yeah, pretty damn smart. Have a look. Have a look at the website, which I think they just played up there. Jim Turner says, I'm here waiting with plenty of designs that will take the backhoe loader into a new dimension. I may have mentioned this before, Jim. Have you ever run into Julian Carter at JCB? He is I think he's their general manager of backhoe loaders. And not only is he the general manager, he's an absolute, and I mean this is an absolute compliment. He's a complete backhoe loader anorak. He really is. He'd be your boy. He really would. Right, cracking on. Do a bit of this, and then we're going out on the road with Dynapac.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Jim says the backhoe loader market just feels stale to me, and I think I've tried Julian, but no joy. Keep plugging away, sir. Keep plugging away. You could be the saviour of the backhoe loader. Who the hell knows? Dynapac doing their compaction stuff. We're off to the States. Enjoy a bit of this.
Before we got into Dynapac, we were running some other rollers that had some engine issues. They spent more time in the shop than they spent on the job. So we've been dealing with Reynolds Warren now for about 6 years. That was kind of the foot in the door for Dynapac and really groundbreaking for us.
The unique part of our relationship with E.R. Snell is they were actually one of the first contractors I started working with Dynapac in 2020. They know the compaction and paving side, and having the opportunity to work with their technical teams, it's a big part of what we do. It's vital for an asphalt OEM to have a strong asphalt dealer. They understand that downtime is very costly, asphalt very costly. Having a dealer that is in that space all the time, like Reynolds Warren is vital to our success. Dynapac's seismic technology was launched in 2019 with our soil compaction line, and then a few years later in asphalt. Seismic technology is truly intelligent compaction, utilizing sensors and software to detect the optimal frequency to deliver the appropriate compaction for the asphalt mat. There's a cost savings component for the contractor. By delivering appropriate compaction with each pass, you have the opportunity to reduce fuel consumption for up to 25%. Not just that, this is less wear and tear on your machine. For over 90 years, Dynapac has delivered quality compaction products. And during that time, one of our main focuses has been on operator comfort.
Todo el trabajo me gusta, operando máquinas o trabajando aquí con mis compañeros abajo. Todo me gusta de mi trabajo. He tenido muy buenas experiencias con el rol Dynapac porque incluso fue mi primer maquinaria que yo empecé como operador.
We work on roughly 40 jobs a day. We need dependable equipment that keeps us going every day, and we feel like we get that out of Dynapac.
Very smart. Some good hats in that as well. Very good hats. Very quickly, by the way, I'm about to play you our young lady advertising our Rick Holes sweatshirt and T-shirt and everything else. Gary, don't buy one for Christine. For the love of God, don't buy one for her. If you have a look over on the YouTube channel of Hydreamer are actually doing a Christmas jumper. I may grab it in the next couple of days and see if I can play it for you. But yeah, just thought I'd let you know. But don't buy one of those. Buy one of these.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays, everyone.
I just want to say this from Jim says the key part of roller operator plays in successful asphalt laying operations grossly underestimated. Yeah, it is. And it's way beyond being an operator these days. It's an absolute science. It really is. And I realise the science is aided very much by technology these days. Constant monitoring and that kind of thing. But it is, it's an art and a science. Totally agree with you, Mick. One more film. LiuGong and their latest wheel loader, the 848T. LiuGong, take it away.
Welcome friends, we're here with the new 848T series loader. It's a new series for the LiuGong product. It's got Tier 3 emission. It is suitable for many applications including sand moving, fertiliser and agricultural application. The 848T is equipped with an engine co-developed by LiuGong and Cummins, especially for wheel loaders, and ZF transmission. It boasts the patented hump power curve, tuned precisely for harsh conditions common in loader operations. Fuel economy improvement by 5% compared to H series, making it more energy efficient. Okay, we're here at the axles. This is a 4-ton axle and it's been upgraded to a 7-ton wet brake axle, which is most suitable for very harsh condition. The new axle increases the static load capacity by 44%, the dynamic load capacity by 60%, and the output torque by 48%, which is more suitable for harsh working conditions. 10.7 tonnes of digging force and 7.4 tonnes of lifting force make it easy to handle heavy loads. Both carrying capacity and digging force have been increased by 15% compared to the H series. With optimised bucket design and GET, it is easy to penetrate into stockpiles. Bucket capacity can be selected from 2.5 cubic metre to 6 cubic metre. Performance is further improved by 22% than the H series. The new T series cabin is easy to access and comfortable for the operator. In addition to improved space and visibility, the cab is designed for operator by enhanced suspension and upgraded 12 air vents for optimal air circulation. And a series of manoeuvrability upgrades have been carried out, greatly reducing operation process. The electric lift hood is easy to operate. The reversible fan can easily clean dust automatically to reduce downtime. The variable pump hydraulic system has no high pressure loss, and the hydraulic driven fan is controlled by the signals from the transmission and the engine to give us the fan speed. The 848T series is built stronger to work harder and in all applications, and we hope that you would have one in your fleet soon.
Just had this from Dan. I wonder if Mr. Major had anything to do with that. I wonder if he did. Yeah, Gary, if you're watching, if you're lurking over on Instagram, not Instagram, you're normally on LinkedIn. If you're lurking over there and you had some input to that, let us know. Take your props, as they say, as the youth say. Do they say that? It's something like that. Anyway, people, that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe, look after yourself, your family, your friends and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back with hang on a minute. I will be back. Dan just said, looks a nice loader. Yes, I will be back immediately after this. He got the news on a Tuesday, late November. Quietly, he'd been expecting something, the usual year-end slowdown. But not this. Just like that, laid off. Not redundant, no payout, just told he was surplus to requirements and dismissed. Inside his head, he was already doing the maths. Mortgage, gas bill, Christmas dinner, the kids' presents. The numbers didn't add up. They never do when you've got no wages coming in and 6 weeks till anyone even thinks about hiring again. He sat there for a while in the van, watching his breath cloud up the windscreen. Christmas had just been cancelled. There's a special kind of cruelty in losing your job just before Christmas. Amidst all the joy to the world, you're quietly panicking about how to pay the rent. The radio blares out Slade, Mariah Carey and Michael Sodding Bublé, and every advert tells you that love means buying stuff you now can't afford. The festive lights are twinkling, the credit card is maxed, and the kids are counting the days till the morning that's going to break your heart. It's not just about the money, though. It's about what it does to a man's pride. Try explaining to your kids why Santa's been forced to... Try telling your kids why Santa's been forced to tighten his belt this year. Try telling your partner that Christmas dinner might be a frozen chicken because the gas bill's due. Try keeping a brave face when you can't even look at yourself in the mirror. And it's not like he did anything wrong. The job didn't dry up because of him. The client delayed the project. The developer hit the pause button. The QS shaved a few numbers off a spreadsheet, and somewhere down the line, a manager had to make it all add up. And that always seems to start with the ones who do the actual work. It's funny that, isn't it? The first ones on site, the ones who graft through early mornings and pissing rain, they're always the first ones out the door when things get tight. It's the same story every year. We'll have to let you go. We'll give you a shout in the new year. Nothing personal. And then off they go. Another life placed on hold. And as an industry, we've made it normal. That's the worst part. We've turned redundancy into routine. It's just another process, another procedure, another tough decision made from the comfort of an office where the heating's on and the bonuses are still coming in. Meanwhile, the bloke on the ground, he's got to walk through the door and tell his family that the pay packet's gone. And that's not just a financial hit, that's emotional shrapnel. He'll still put the lights up, he'll still pretend, he'll laugh in all the right places, but behind that laughter, there'll be a fear that sits heavy in his gut. Fear of falling behind, fear of letting people down, fear of being forgotten. Because make no mistake, this industry forgets people fast. 1 week, you're part of the team, a vital asset. The next, your name's off the rota. When the gate closes for Christmas, that's it. Game over till January. You can call it a seasonal slowdown all you like, but to the man sitting at home with no wage coming in, it feels like something else entirely. It feels like being disposable. It feels like a kick in the balls. Like you gave your best years, your back, your lungs, and in return you get a handshake and a see you later. And let's be honest here, this timing isn't accidental. Companies know full well that sites wind down before the holidays. They know there won't be much hiring until mid-January. They know they're sending people into 6 or 7 weeks of financial uncertainty and emotional purgatory. But it's easier to do it now, isn't it? Clear the books before the new quarter. Go into the festive break leaner. They'll say it's just business, but if you've been in this game long enough, you know it's not just anything. It's livelihoods, it's families, it's the quiet panic that sets in when the world is celebrating and you're wondering how you're going to keep the lights on. And yet, somehow, these are the same people we clap when times are tough. Remember lockdown? Remember the praise, the talk of key workers? Didn't last long, did it? Gratitude fades fast in this industry, and loyalty fades even faster. He'll start looking for work again soon enough. There'll be phone calls, messages, promises. Might have something for you in January, mate. Keep your phone on. That's weeks away. In the meantime, there's Christmas, there's family, there's a tree that's going up whether the money's there or not. And that's the bit that breaks you. The pretending, the smiling through it all, the holding it together when the kids rip open presents you couldn't afford, and your partner gives you that look. Half love, half worry. Because they know. They always know. I wish I could say this was rare. I wish I could say this story was unusual, but it's not. Up and down the country, it's happening again and again. Men and women who've given everything, being told they're no longer required. It's an industry with a short memory and an even shorter conscience. And I get it. The economy is tough, margins are thin, and projects do stall. But if the numbers only work when we treat people like they're disposable, then maybe the numbers are wrong. Maybe the system's wrong. Remember when we used to say a dog is for life, not just for Christmas? Maybe that expression needs updating to a construction worker is for life, and that includes Christmas. There you are, inspired by all of those people currently seeking work over on LinkedIn. We've probably lost Jim Turner by now, but how is everyone doing today? LiuGong are a good brand. Jumped leaps in the country. Yeah, they have. They have made massive inroads. And the funny thing is they actually did it. In some ways, they did it the hard way. They really targeted Demolition. And Demolition is tough. You know, if you really want to test machines, put them into Demolition. And they did, and they sold a few. Keltbray had a few. Squibbs had a few other companies. Took one. Well, we'll give it a go. And one became two, and two became four. And I mean, I don't know what Keltbray are up to these days, but I mean, back end of Squibbs, I think Squibb were running about a dozen of them. So yeah, they really have made big inroads, and fair play to them. I think they're doing a good job. Isn't it ridiculous? These CEOs get thousands in bonus for talking shit, yet the actual man on the ground get fuck all. Yeah, there was a bit in that occurred to me. You know, when a company goes pop, I was thinking about this from a banking point of view. You know, when the banks were all struggling, and they were bailed out by the government. In other words, we bailed them out. If you can't make money in banking, should you be in banking? I was thinking that specifically here. Okay, so if you're a demolition company or a construction company, and you have certain fixed costs, you have the cost of your equipment, you have the cost of your headquarters, probably, you have the cost of your insurance, of your fuel, materials, all of those things. You would think that one of those fixed costs would be wages. You know, we employ 10 people at 50 grand a year. Our wage bill will be £500,000. That's what it is. But that only seems to apply actually at head office level, and sometimes not even then. But those that are sat behind desks, you know, on their 50 grand a year, I'm just plucking these figures out of the air, you know, that they've been allocated, you know, the company has said, well, you know, Betty in the office, she's worth 50 grand a year. She gets her 50 grand a year and possibly a Christmas bonus on top of it. The Steve out in the workshop that keeps the machines on the go, he's worth 50 grand a year, because without him, you know, we wouldn't have a company, we wouldn't have a business. Bob out on site, yeah, things have taken a bit of a dive. Let's get rid of him. And isn't that a weird imbalance? I mean, even setting aside the unfairness of it all, where does the real work of a construction company take place? Where does the real work of a demolition company take place? Or a mining company, or a waste company, or a quarry company? It doesn't take place in the office. The office is there to facilitate, but the actual work, you know, the actual digging out of minerals, the actual digging out of aggregates, the actual demolishing of buildings, the actual construction of structures takes place on site. And it's done by hairy-arsed guys, by and large, with their asses hanging out their jeans, who are bizarrely seen as expendable. I reach for football as an analogy more regularly than I should, because I know a lot of our audience aren't particularly into football. But imagine if you were the owner of West Ham. I wish I was the owner of West Ham, because it would look much different. But imagine you were the owner of West Ham, and for one reason or another, I don't know, ticket sales were down, maybe the TV deals weren't quite worth what they were were in the past. Maybe your stadium costs have gone up, whatever it might be. But you've hit a bit of a lean patch in financial terms. Would your response be to lay off some players? So next time you're due to play Arsenal, rather than fielding 11 players plus 5 substitutes, you field 9 because you've laid a couple of them off. We'll get by with just 9. You wouldn't. It's a rhetorical question. You would never ever lay off the people that actually do the actual work. You would never ever do that. Demolition and construction, first thing you do. That's not strictly true, actually. The way that it works when times start to get tough is you bin your advertising and your marketing, you possibly cut your training, and then you start to lay people off. But by and large, you are laying off the people that actually are out there, dirt under their fingernails, wearing the boots, wearing the PPE, who actually deliver the work. Does that not strike as anybody else's complete madness? Imagine at your local shops. Your local shops go, the rent's gone up. Local shops struggling a bit. Your local Greg's Bakers. So, we'll keep on the backroom staff, but we'll have nobody in the shops. People can just help themselves, and hopefully they'll leave some money behind. You'd never do that. It makes no sense whatsoever. And yet, what do we have here? No company makes money without these hardworking men. No, they don't. And there is the thing, okay? And I realise it's kind of averaged out. But just because Christmas has come around, just because New Year has come around, doesn't mean that construction company or that demolition company has stopped making money. They've factored in their costs, they've factored in their profits and everything else. So yes, they might take a couple of weeks off or a week and a bit off for Christmas and the New Year, but they'll have stage payments coming in and so on down the line. They'll have payment for work that they did 3 months ago that's now just arriving. They've got another load of payments that are due in January because they're about to start work. So that money is still flowing in. The absolute truth of it, in many cases, I think, is we are going to be slowed down or possibly even idle for a few weeks over the Christmas period. What's the cheapest way to do this? Do we send everybody home with a bonus and take a couple of weeks off, lads? We've paid you in full. We'll see you in 10 days' time. Or do you just say, that's it, off you go? And the situation we have now with so many people being employed through agencies, you've got no protection. You can't go back and say, well, you can't, that's unfair dismissal. You can't terminate my employment just because you fancy going off and having a Christmas party without me. Yeah, that's unfair dismissal. No such thing if you're an agency worker. Well, by and large, there's not. Dan says, now that's bloody well written, Mark. Thank you very much indeed, Dan. Very, very kind of you. We working men graft daily for the pennies, and I've yet to get a bonus and an actual thank you for your input to this project. But no, nothing, just there. Out the gate, see you in the future. Possibly. Yeah. Yeah. Can someone actually tell me why these CEOs get these bonuses? See, there's another thing I think that is unfairly skewed. We were talking about, I can't remember the bloke's name, this new fella at Kia, who's got 11.6 billion in the order book for Kia. Fantastic. Now, if they've gone from having 600 million in the pipeline to 11.6 billion, bung him a couple of million. The guy's clearly worth it. Absolutely. I mean, that's an astonishing amount of work that he delivered. And he, if they said we're giving him a £10 million bonus, I'd struggle to argue with it, because that is an amazing contribution. But somebody's now got to deliver that work. All he has done, or all the team have done under his direction, is get the orders in. Now, knowing Kia, there'll be a heady mix, I would imagine. There'll be some residential, there'll be some commercial buildings, there'll probably be some warehouses in there. There may even be a few road projects and stuff like that, rail and that kind of thing. But regardless of what that is, all that guy has done, and admittedly he's done it very well, but all that guy has done is got somebody, a customer, to sign an order. There are now thousands, possibly tens of thousands of men and women who need to make good on the promise that he has made to those clients. There'll be a client somewhere, probably, we're building a 4-mile stretch of bypass. It needs to be 3 lanes in either direction. It needs to go over a viaduct or whatever it might be. And, you've said you can do that for £112 million. Yes. And you can do that in 6 months. Yes. At that point, that goes off his desk and that goes onto the desk of the people that actually make it happen. The Dan Cullens, the Jim Turners, the Chris Fords, the Gary Muirheads of this world. The guys in the hard hats and the dirty hivies. They are as Dan has said, they are the people that are actually delivering. And yeah, they are the ones. I was thinking when I wrote that, I actually originally said that our fictional protagonist, had been made redundant. And I didn't use that word for 2 reasons. The first is there's not that much redundancy in this business anymore. People are just laid off. They're not normally sent away with a golden handshake. They're just sent out with a flea in their ear, basically. But I'm really uncomfortable with the word redundant, because redundant as a word, this is my department here. Redundant is a thing that has 2 meanings. It means you've been laid off basically with a payout, but it also means not needed anymore. You go and buy yourself a new car, so your old one is now redundant, surplus requirements, disposable. And we're seemingly comfortable with people being redundant. I say this a lot. So many companies talk about how their people are their greatest asset, and in truth, they absolutely should be, because they are, as I've said and as Dan said, they are the people that get these projects across the line. They are the ones who complete the work, at which point the directors and the shareholders and everybody else gets their payout. Without them, none of that happens. And yet they are the ones that are seen as entirely disposable. It's become that predictable now that I'm not even sure it's a company issue anymore. It seems to be a case of it's almost like they've got an alarm set on their calendar or on their phone. It's early November. Another 3 or 4 weeks and sites will start to ease back, and we won't be getting the new work started because clients will be sitting on their hands and stuff. Who can we lay off? Who can we take off the wage bill this week? It just seems to be a timing thing. Gary says, it used to depress me at Christmas when I was self-employed, knowing there's 2 weeks without money, but now I'm on the books and that's all gone now. Thank God. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in truth, that used to be the standard, didn't it? You were on the books. That's just the way it was. You were on the books, and they couldn't pick you up and put you down. Now they can. And there is. I realise. I've never actually been out of work. Well, no, that's not true. When I left college and before I started work, I had about 4 weeks before I found truly gainful employment. But apart from that, I've never been unemployed. But there is a particular cruelty of being unemployed at Christmas. For many people, it's probably the most expensive part of the year. Particularly if you're young, maybe you've got young children, and they link the number and the quality and the size and the cost of their gifts with their behavior over the years. If they, or over the year rather, if they are still in full Santa belief mode and you come up short, what was I bad this year? All I got was that. Now they may not even think that, but as as the breadwinner, as the father, as a provider, you're probably thinking that. And what do you get your wife or your girlfriend or your spouse? I know this is not just blokes, it's women as well. What do you do then? And what about if, particularly if you've been having not a bad year, you've earned a few quid, you've had a pretty good run, you've been in the same job for a good few months now, and you've started to, I wouldn't say relax. I don't think anybody in this industry can ever fully relax financially, but you started to think, oh, we're onto a good thing here. And this Christmas, it won't just be me, the wife, and the kids. We'll get mother-in-law and father-in-law around as well, and we'll Christmas dinner will be on us, and we'll have all the trimmings, all whatever constitutes a Christmas dinner in households up and down the land. And then 4 weeks before or 6 weeks before, you suddenly realise can't do that. That's no longer an option. I use the term emotional shrapnel, and it is. It's not the initial blast of redundancy that gets you; it's the fallout. Andy Thornton says the mental health impact must be immense. Hardly a new year and a new beginning. Always starting the new year on the back foot. Yeah, and I know my youngest daughter feels this. She gets paid. She gets paid early in December. I don't know exactly when, but I mean, she's normally paid last day of the month, but she's paid like 2 weeks early. But then her wages revert to the usual scheme of things. So she's basically paid in December. Let's say the 12th of December. She's not paid again until about the 30th of January. Now, thankfully, my youngest daughter is very astute with money. She's got savings, and she's very, very careful, and budgets for everything and everything else. Very proud of her for that. But imagine if you're working in demolition and construction. You've got your mortgage or your rent, you've got your household bills, you've got food, you've got Christmas, you've got the car to pay for, all of those things. You somehow manage to keep your head above water for December. But even if you manage to get yourself a job early January, you're paying back part of what you've basically borrowed to pay last month's bills. So even when your January wage arrives, you're not ahead. It's not, oh, that's it, we're back on an even keel. You're not. All you've done is clear the debt that you've amassed over the Christmas period for one reason or another, and you've now got to go through. Now, thankfully, February is quite a short month, but you are, as Andy has rightly said, you're starting on the back foot. You could, rather than starting, with your bank account in the black, and even if it says 0 in the bank, but you're starting with a blank sheet of paper. But I bet you're not. I bet most people are starting, a lot of people in this industry will be starting with a big red number at the bottom of their bank statement. And, if the site that you're due to go back to, assuming you're lucky enough to get yourself back into work, if it doesn't start on the 2nd of January or the 3rd, they've decided actually, by the time we've got all our ducks in a row, we'll actually start on the 10th. It's another 10 days you've lost. 10 days where you're not being paid. So again, when the end of January rolls around and you get your wages, you've got to pay last month's bills with 3 weeks' money. And this is the system that we've adopted. The very fact that the Christmas layoff has become a procedure, a protocol. There's probably meetings going on around about September, October time. Right, okay, it's nearly time. Right, cut. Get rid of him. And how many of those people, not that it's down to them ultimately, but how many of those people, having delivered the news that your presence isn't required for the next 4, 5, 6 weeks, how many of those are going off to fancy Christmas parties where they'll photocopy their arse and get off with the secretary? It's not right, is it? Not right at all. Jim Turner has returned. Like the prodigal son, he has returned. He has risen. No, it's Easter. Forget that. Yes, people, that's it. That's me. I should not go to work angry, should I? Every construction firm should run a Christmas club. Yeah. Yeah. I am of the belief that maybe there should be some, as an industry, once you're above a certain level, you contribute to the Construction Industry Training Board. I'm not going to bore you with my feelings on the CITB. They're not entirely positive, but I won't bore you with that. But we basically set aside money for training. We don't get overly involved in how that money is invested or spent or allocated, but we employ a dozen people, therefore we pay the CITB levy, we pay them, and then if all works out, we'll need some training, we can go to them, they'll deliver the training. So it's money that goes round and round in circles. A good many people that contribute to the CITB don't even make use of their services, but they will continue to do that. Could we not do the same, but from a charitable point of view? I know we do that in terms of accidents and injuries with the Lighthouse Club. People are injured, maimed, or possibly even killed at work, and the Lighthouse Club swings to the rescue. I think that's fantastic. I'm not entirely enamoured with the way that the Lighthouse Club goes about its business, but by and large, they do some good work. I mean, they've certainly helped friends of mine in the past, or families of friends of mine. Could we not have the same for the workers that find themselves in tough circumstances? Jim Turner says, been in work since 16, never been stood down around Christmas. Seen it happen plenty though. Yeah. And it is one of those things. I mean, I think I wouldn't say we're at the beginning of it. I think we're probably in the midst of it right now. I started to see this over on LinkedIn maybe 2 weeks ago, which would have been what? Where are we now? 2 weeks ago would have been basically the beginning of November. It will continue and it will ramp up and it will ramp up and ramp up to the point where 2 weeks before Christmas, there'll be loads and loads of people. Gary, no need for that. I greatly appreciate it. You are one of the kindest, most generous people I know, but there's no need for that. Basically, it's already done and dusted anyway. But it's a lovely thought. I'm just going to go along to the funeral. It is on the 28th of this month. I've got to tell you, next week is going to be I'll come back to that. So I'm going along on the 28th. I will be there to pay my respects. And as I say, if the NFDC do send along a delegation, I shall treat them with the contempt they no doubt deserve. Wouldn't get into an argument with them at a funeral because I have more respect than that. But that's my feeling on it. But I did just mention next week is a bit of a swine, actually. I'm not always in control of my diary, unfortunately. So on Friday next week, it is the Institute of Demolition Engineers AGM. So I'm going along to that to support the incumbent president, Adrian McLean, who is another fine, upstanding fella. So I'm going along to that. So there will be no show next Friday. That's actually taking place in Birmingham. On Wednesday next week, there'll be no show either because I'm going to a college. I'm going to do some filming at a college up in Birmingham. If it would have been so much nicer if the college had been on Thursday and the AGM had been on Friday, then I could have just gone up there, stayed overnight. But instead of which, I'm going to Birmingham to the college, coming back, doing a show, getting in my car, going back to Birmingham, and then coming back. It's a whole thing. Listen. Nobody said my job was easy. It is, but nobody ever said my job was easy. So yes, that's where we are. There'll be just 3 shows next week. I'll be absent on Wednesday, I'll be absent on Friday, and then the week after that, I'll be absent Friday again because, as I say, I'm going to a funeral. I'm going to the Building Expo in Olympia. When is that, Andy? I know it's coming up. I've seen plenty of it. Not really my thing. And I do find Olympia a really soul destroying. I mean, it's not as bad as the NEC, but it's not great. It really isn't great. 19th and 20th. I wish you well. I wish you well. I would say, I'll come and meet you, but it's Olympia. It's kind of like a black hole on the outskirts of London. So good luck with that. I'm sure you have a fantastic time. You may well run into a couple of mates of mine. I would imagine Neil Edwards will be going. Matt Malloy will probably be there as well, the cameraman extraordinaire that he is. Anyway, people, I've been going along for far too long. Dan Cullen saying, I was thinking of going to it. One of my concerns with Building Expo is the Building Expo is there's no plant. It's all gadgets and materials and stuff. As soon as there's no plant, I'm turned off. Jim Turner says, I worked at Olympia. So have I. Very quickly, I know it's 12 minutes past. Dan, I know you're on the way out the door, but you're going to miss a very quick story. So, never been to anything there. Nice building. It's looking a bit tired, for being honest. Anyway, years ago, when I was working on the magazine Caterer and Hotel Keeper, they used to host an event called Hotel Olympia. Doesn't sound good in your mouth, does it? Hotel Olympia. But it was a big deal. It was the big event of the year for the catering and hotel industry. And I went along to it. And I took the tube. And this would have been late 80s. So they just banned cigarette and tobacco advertising on the underground. It subsequently was banned elsewhere as well, but they just banned it. And a lot of the old cigarette brands used to have, above your head on the tube, they'd have those, buy Marlboro, and there's your Marlboro man in his cowboy hat, or whatever it might be. But they've been forbidden from doing that. Can't remember the name of the company, but a company put a sign, and I'm sat there on my way to Olympia. I'm sat there, suited and booted. I'm ready to go and do a day's work. And up above, opposite, was a sign. As we're no longer allowed to advertise tobacco, we have decided to give you something to keep you entertained. And it was basically a very, very short questionnaire. And it said, look at the person opposite. And I looked at the person opposite, and she was a very, very big black lady. And it said, what do you think her name is? So I'm kind of conjuring what her name might be. What do you think it says in the any distinguishing mark section of her passport? So I'm sat there watching this play out, and I'm vaguely amused by it. Anyway, all of the questions were, quite big and bold, but there was one little line of text at the bottom that even before I was wearing glasses, had to lean forward to take a look. And it said, and by the way, there's one of these above your head too. And I looked back, and sure enough, there was one of those signs. And when I looked back, this black lady that was sat opposite me had clearly been doing the same, because the two of us just sat there and giggled. But I wonder what she thought my name was. I wonder what she would have put in my any distinguishing marks. Yeah. Clever advertising. Well, I say clever advertising. I can't actually remember the name of the company that did it, so it wasn't that bloody clever. Dan says, I work next to Olympia. Man, it is really run down. Yeah, it is. It really is. Having said that, I would imagine it's pretty much the only game in town now. I know we've got the XL and what have you, but with Earl's Court being replaced, we were only allowed the candy cigarettes. Oh, do you remember candy cigarettes? Do you remember those? Friend of mine when I was a kid. Weird shit you remember. came out of his house once, and he'd made this himself, right? He had, I think it was like a white straw, like a plain white straw, about the roughly the length of a cigarette. And he walked out like this. Now, he was about 11 at the time, so he's walked out like this. And what looked like smoke billowed from the end of what was clearly a plastic cigarette. Weird, right? Turns out what he'd done, he'd taken a plastic straw, cut it in half, he'd put a bit of cotton wool in one end, and then in the other end, he'd put talcum powder. So when he blew, when he what fucking possessed him to do this in the first place? I have no idea. But when he blew through the cotton wool, you got this puff of imaginary smoke. We actually thought he was quite cool. The world looks very different when you're 11. It really does. Yes, candy fags for training you when you grow up. Yeah. It's the same as chocolate tools. I mean, I remember them tasting really good. But you can make chocolate any shape you like. You can you could make chocolate daffodils. I don't know, chocolate telephones. No, we're going to make a chocolate saw and a chocolate hammer and a chocolate spanner. Was that? Was that some kind of manual labor indoctrination that they didn't really talk about? Is that what it was? Were we being secretly brainwashed into accepting manual labor by chocolate? Never occurred to me before that until Andy just said about candy fags training you for when you're older. I wonder if that was subliminal. If a child ate a lot of chocolate spanners and woke up one day and thought, do you know, a job for me? I'm going to be a plumber. I wonder. Cognitive associative conditioning in the shape of chocolate tools. I worry how my brain works sometimes, I've got to be honest. Anyway, I was leaving here about 10 minutes ago. I really am going this time. I'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm talking about, I realise you probably don't know or even care, but we are currently in Waste Reduction Week. I'm going to be talking about that tomorrow, but not in the way that you might think. Nothing is ever straightforward on this show. You should probably know that by now. So I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. for yet more of the same. Hopefully Jim Turner won't have any toolbox talks and can stick around for the entire thing. Dan Cullen saying, stay safe, stay happy. Yes, please do both of those things. I'll see you tomorrow for yet more of the same. Thanks for your company.